Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe right now. Share this segment everywhere. Get it viral. Edward Snowden, December 3rd, 2020. Mr. President, if you grant only one act of clemency during your time in office, please free Julian Assange. You alone can save his life. At Real Donald Trump. That was on December 3rd. Now you have today Pastor Mark Burns proclaiming to the world that President Trump's going to pardon Julian Assange. I think that not only has the momentum been building to pardon Assange, not only is it the right thing to do, he's a publisher. He did nothing different from any Washington Post journalist. Nothing different. In fact, the Washington Post has SecureDrop. So the Washington Post should be like the journalists at the Washington Post should be advocating for Assange to be free and pardoned, and a complete pardon. SecureDrop, Washington Post. Hit subscribe to this channel, by the way. And subscribe to the newsletter on hagoodman.com. And you could read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Times of Israel, the Roanoke Times, the Federalist, the Daily Caller. I have 3 articles that I've written, 2 in the Daily Caller, 1 in the Times of Israel, calling for Julian Assange to be free and to be pardoned. You can read those articles on hagoodman.com. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below. What is SecureDrop? The Washington Post SecureDrop is a discreet way for readers to share messages and materials with journalists. It offers greater security and anonymity than conventional email and web forums. Oh, that's interesting. So Assange is being persecuted, but the Washington Post can have SecureDrop? How does that work? How do they know that they're not getting Russian disinformation or disinformation from other countries? How do I use it? SecureDrop relies on Tor, an application designed to encrypt your communication and obscures your computer's IP address. In order to use SecureDrop, go to a place with a public internet connection, one that you don't normally frequent. Isn't that interesting? I mean, they're really, like, this is what, so Assange is not indicted, hasn't been indicted or charged with conspiring alongside Russian intelligence officials. He's not, the indictment has nothing to do with the Kremlin or Putin. So, I mean, the people who are claiming that he worked with Russia lack basic logical reasoning skills. And they're generally the most apoplectic, seething, fuming, pathetic individuals who just want retribution for losing in 2016. He didn't work with Russia. That's a tinfoil hat theory. Nobody worked with Russia. Russia doesn't care. They got 20% of U.S. uranium capacity from President Obama's administration, and President Obama's administration, or I should say, President Obama allowed the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity. He allowed the sale to take place, a sale that eventually went to Putin and the Kremlin. You think they're frightened of Democrats? Why? Because the Lincoln Project says so? Lincoln Project hasn't been right about anything. The intelligence operatives or community in this country hasn't been right about anything for the past 50 years, 60 years. Bay of Pigs, Gulf of Tonkin, WMD, Facebook ads, what have they been right about? And then we can look back 20 years ago, the worst day in U.S. history. Did they protect us? I mean, what have they been right about? What have they predicted? Nothing. And when they're wrong, millions suffer. The lives of millions are altered when people like Comey, Strzok, McCabe, and Clapper are wrong. And they are always wrong. But we should revere them according to Democrats. Why? Because they're in the tank for the Democratic Party. But here, this is the Washington Post. This is one of the many reasons that Julian Assange should be free, and that he's a publisher and a journalist just like the people at the Washington Post. I'm reading from the Washington Post right now. In order to use SecureDrop of the Washington Post, go to a place with a public internet connection, one that you don't normally frequent. Download and install the Tor browser bundle. Open the Tor browser and copy this URL. From this URL, so how do they know that they're not getting classified data? How do they know they're not getting whistleblowers from the United States government that will eventually, that the U.S. government will eventually go after? They're literally coaching people, which is what Assange is being accused of. But Chelsea Manning was already basically pardoned by President Obama. She was already pardoned. So then why are you going after Assange? For retribution. Because the left is full of the most apoplectic, petulant, malicious individuals. You know these people. I just want to let you know I'm so upset with you for voting for Trump, you know? And it's like, click. Nobody cares what you think. The left is composed of people who wake up every morning hoping that others care about their thoughts. Hoping and praying that people will fear their judgment and condemnation. Like, nobody cares what the left thinks. But again, this is not a left-right issue, although the fuel against Assange is coming from the Democratic Party and liberals. Very few, even the far left. There are people who are like, he worked with Russia, man. And, it's like, he worked with Russia, and how do you know this, you imbecile? Where did you get this information? Well, the U.S. intelligence officials. You want universal basic income, don't you? Yeah. You want an end to empire. Yeah. But you don't like Trump and you don't think Assange should be free? I just, he published information that was detrimental to the Democratic Party. Yeah, so what? Who cares? He published information that was detrimental to the Republican Party also, Einstein. Who cares? You're dealing with imbeciles, ladies and gentlemen. You're dealing with people who just want retribution and revenge for losing. The people on the furthest left always, just slide back towards the good liberal Democrat vantage point when it really counts. So you can have people, they can be the biggest communists and socialists and anarchists and all these. At the end of the day, if you're not standing for Julian Assange to be free, you are exactly what you claim that you aren't. You're exactly what you claim to oppose. These people, there are people on the left and the right who say, we have to oppose these authoritarians. We have to oppose these ultra-nationalists, authoritarians who... Do you want to free a publisher? Do you want to free somebody who just published emails that everyone else... By the way, The Guardian and The Washington Post and The New York Times and Politico and MSNBC and CNN all published the same things that Assange and WikiLeaks published. Think about that for a moment. Think about that. It wasn't just Julian Assange who published those emails. Everything was republished. Everything was addressed and talked about on cable news. So, is the U.S. government going to go after the Washington Post journalists that wrote articles on why Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign in disgrace, or the New York Times journalists, or the BBC or the Guardian journalists? The same people who oppose Trump, but love Biden and his son Caligula. This is, I wrote in the Times of Israel that Julian Assange, in Hebrew, the word is called a tzaddik, and it's like a good, technically like a holy person or a good person or somebody that brings light to the world or does good deeds or a beautiful human being. And what Assange, he spoke truth to power and he paid a price, a big price, tremendous price. The entire planet went after him. In a different context, Trump is the same kind of individual in a different way. He speaks truth to power, and of course, Democrats said, "Oh my God, we're going to impeach you for even thinking." For even thinking that you could ever ask for an investigation of the purest that driven Snow Biden, and now we find out his son Caligula has endless emails. Well, we already knew this, but of course we were suppressed from talking about it. Now we're suppressed from talking about other things pertaining to November. But see, again, you can try to silence voices, but the ideas resonate. The more you try to suppress ideas, the easier they become grandiose, the more they're amplified. So there's a reason that we can't talk about certain things in this past 30 days or so. There's a reason. We know. We know why we can't. We know why we know why we couldn't talk about Caligula's emails from the New York Post article before November. We know why. We know why. We know why Democrats view their own emails as national security risks, as a national security risk. The truth about the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. I'm not a Republican. I'm voting for Trump. I voted for Trump. Trump is like his own force being. Like, he's not a Republican, but he helped the Republican Party achieve tremendous things. Record low unemployment, First Step Act, first president to step foot in North Korea. Moon Jae-in of South Korea stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. Record low Black and Latino unemployment. First president to allocate more funding, only president to allocate more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, including President Obama. No Democrat has come close, and made the funding permanent, and absolved a couple $100 million in loans. These are all great things. He never got credit. And then when people get their arms stuck and, with what is going to protect them from what in the next couple of months, guess who helped create that? Guess which administration that was created under? Oh, that's right, President Trump's administration, when they said it would be impossible, but it happened. They said it would take 1.5 years, 2 years, come on, clinical trials, huh? And now people, thank God, are able to get what's needed. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody, we can only talk in roundabout terms nowadays about everything. Talking about the pandemic. Talking about things that they said couldn't happen, but they did happen, happened under President Trump, and he never got credit for anything. Then they said he said both sides. He never said both sides. You can look at the C-SPAN transcript, but see, the thing is, Democrats have to live in a fantasy world, and part of the psychological, fantasy world they've created is that the DNC emails were hacked by Putin to embarrass us and to help Trump because of a Steele dossier that was purchased by Clinton. And Alexander Downer's thoughts on Papadopoulos, and 18 intelligence officials from Russia were indicted because, not from anything from the U.S. government, because Company One in the indictment said that they did bad things. Company One was outsourced by Clinton. So President Trump, I believe, is going to pardon Julian Assange. And I think that a lot of this smoke and a lot of this, hype, and I think it's heading towards... I don't think that President Trump's going to leave without pardoning Julian Assange, because what happened to Assange, and then what happened to Carter Page and Michael Flynn and George Papadopoulos, all of these things happened before they went after Trump and his family. So you pardon Julian Assange, you have a person who spoke truth to power, and you protect the First Amendment, and you also give a gigantic middle finger to a very corrupt DC establishment. See, what we've learned the past 4 years is that apoplectic, seething, fuming liberals will call up friends, say, "I don't want to be your friend anymore because you disagree with me politically." They'll convince themselves. They'll convince themselves that the people they don't like are 1930s and 1940s Germans, while at the same time pushing for a publisher to be imprisoned. Think about how sick and demented these types of people are. These are the types of people who enjoy the Lincoln Project, or have no care in the world. They don't care about the Lincoln Project people, the Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld people who actually ran on a marriage amendment, which is which is basically the left. They're complete hypocrites on everything. But they don't. The Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld people who destabilize the entire planet with endless wars and quagmires and military interventions and regime changes, and pave the way for President Obama to destroy and turn Libya into a failed state. These people have been convinced that Russia didn't like Trump because the Kremlin was so afraid of Clinton. Yes, Clinton. Putin was afraid of Clinton because Bill is definitely not a national security risk with his Oval Office shenanigans, and Clinton is a tough for good foreign policy scholar who would be tough on Russia. Even though she had servers, both of them had servers running outside of the United States government. And then Anthony Weiner with his servers, and it's like, I'm telling you, you just can't. Then you had Jeffrey Toobin at CNN. I tell you, the liberals can't keep their pants. They can't keep their zipper up. I mean, it's just, when you say caught with their pants down, literally, it's like a tradition for liberal males. Anyway, President Trump, I believe, well, not only should he pardon, I've written 3 articles, 2 in the Daily Caller, 1 in the Times of Israel, that Julian Assange should be pardoned. But Edward Snowden has been saying, please, if there's one pardon, it should be Assange. Now there's talk of Snowden being pardoned as well, and he should be pardoned because James Clapper committed perjury and Brennan committed perjury based on the information that Snowden disclosed. Not one person, thank God, not one person was harmed from Julian Assange's journalism or whistleblowing or publishing. Not one individual. They say that, it was a tremendous threat to this country. Name a person who was harmed. Name one person who was harmed. Okay? You have the Washington Post and others. I mean, Nicholas Sandmann with Lynn Wood won a hopefully gigantic settlement from the Washington Post. The Washington Post went after an underage young man. So spare me the hysterical theatrics of how Julian Assange, harmed the national security because of what he disclosed. He didn't harm national security. This was a political and a vengeful and a what they did to Assange was silence him and try to make him suffer because he exposed the truth. And he published the truth about the United States government and it's not just us, by the way. It's like every country in the world, including Russia. Okay, it's like the funny thing with Democrats is that they look at the world from the vantage that they're the real nationalists, not Trump, because they look at the world like, well, it was us. He was going up against us and helping Russia. Well, he also published emails. WikiLeaks published emails about 30, 40 countries already, more than that. Not just about the U.S., but they have emails from France, all these things. In fact, emails that show that we were trying to influence the French election at one point. I mean, it's unbelievable. Anyway, if you have Steven Spielberg doing a great movie, producing a great movie about Daniel Ellsberg, you should have Steven Spielberg producing a fantastic movie about Julian Assange. The man published the same things that the Washington Post and New York Times published, only before they did, because they just went ahead and talked about everything that he was courageous enough to show the world. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. I hope he pardons Assange and Snowden. We already had President Obama who did the right thing to basically pardon Chelsea Manning. So then why would they go after Assange for allegedly helping Chelsea Manning if she was already essentially pardoned by President Obama? Oh, it's for retribution. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, this will cement President Trump's legacy. If there's anyone listening in the Trump administration who happens to watch my channel, perhaps they do. Trump is already a heroic individual to 74 million Trump supporters, but to millions of people around the world. This will cement his legacy forever. Forever. And it will expose the duplicity and the disingenuous nature of liberals who want a publisher to suffer because he dared, he had the courage, he had the audacity, he had the chutzpah to publish the truth about them. And I'm speaking also not just about liberals, it was conservatives too. The Max Boot and Bill Kristol type people who wrote and pushed and advocated for these regime changes that ruined the lives and ended the lives of hundreds of thousands and ruined the lives of millions. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel. I think it's going to happen, and I think that I think there's too much momentum now. I think that pastor really. I don't think that when he recanted what he stated, I don't think that he really meant to recant. I think that, if you had Edward Snowden about 2 weeks ago saying, hey, if you have to pardon somebody, I think people know that what President Trump's going to do. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel. I'll be back a little later tonight. Thank you so much, everybody.